For me, the real privilege of working in games is facilitating storytelling in a way that is so immersive, in a way that not only facilitates the ability to tell people a story that matters to you, but let them interact with it, let them engage with it, and build entire worlds around it.
I looked around at what I could do and then found game dev programming, which was particularly graphics programming, which really piqued my interest. So I looked into that, ended up doing it, and found my way into games.
In the future, I really do want to go into a production cycle of making either a game or a film. I'm really excited about working in a studio and making something that people can enjoy, and also meeting a lot of people who bring ideas to life.
The technology I'm really excited about is VR, because that's what I work in. So at the moment I do not just headset stuff, but also projections in VR. So stuff like you see in music festivals or at Vivid, so art exhibitions, I make that stuff. I'm the programmer that puts that together for you to see.
I've got so many great teachers, and they're all just really helpful in terms of working through and getting everything done, and I feel like I've learnt so much.
I ended up finding groups of people that I could use as like a group of mentors. So lots of different people in different industries all end up covering everything that I was doing. And I found that was really beneficial.
I've had a lot of people who have really helped me out along the way, and there's a whole smorgasbord of support going on that I've really appreciated.
It gave me the belief in myself. Mentors are invaluable. If you can see it, you can be it. And so often we don't see women of power in the games industry, women of influence in the games industry. The more we elevate those people, and not only elevate them, but connect them directly with entry-level women, the more women we will see succeeding in the industry.
Welcome, everyone. So great to have a full room here, and thank you for all being together over here and a few of you over there, so it's great. I am Linnell Cameron, and I lead our sustainability and foundation work here at Autodesk. So we were thrilled with the keynote this morning, talking about more, better with less. And I'm here substituting for Minette Norman. She was going to be moderating this panel, so for those of you who really wanted to see her, she's not able to make it. She is one of my favorite colleagues at Autodesk and has been absolutely instrumental in the work that we do as a company around helping advance women. So thrilled to jump in for her, especially on this topic, because it truly is one of my favorite topics. I have been mentored, been a mentor, and it's a really important part of how I see my role as a professional woman these days. So really excited to be here. That video was created by students at the Academy of International Entertainment, which produces and prepares students for careers in the gaming industry. And these young women are embarking on careers in one of the most challenging industry and fields to break into. So kudos to them for making that video for us. So if you're here in this room and chose to come to this session, you probably already understand the enormous challenges that women face, but also the opportunity that we have to really make a difference for all the women that are following us in the workforce. A few statistics. Women make up more than half, 57% of the labor force here in the US. I'd love to know what that statistic is globally. I'm sure it varies dramatically by country. Yet women hold only 26% of professional computing occupations, so much smaller in that space. Women hold merely 11% of executive positions at Silicon Valley companies, and women only own 5% of startups. So we've got some work to do. I'm thrilled at Autodesk that we have 2 new members of our leadership team, both of whom are women, so that's been super exciting. We're moving the needle on that front. Go Autodesk. But there's many things that we can do and opportunities that we have. And so, I was asked just to say a few words about Autodesk and our program. We do have a match program where we match employees with mentors. That's both men and women, but that's been going on for a very long time. We also have an incredible program called AWIL, Autodesk Women in Leadership, and I'm going to embarrass her, but ask Chelsea just to stand up so you can find her afterward, right here. Chelsea has been absolutely instrumental in starting the program, really, and helping it gain traction as a very young professional at Autodesk. So it is really a core part of what we do, and I'm sure my colleagues will talk a little bit about that. So with that, I am so thrilled to have this panel. I've never had a panel like this. So we have a panel here of 3 different companies from 3 different continents with a mentor and a mentee. Fantastic. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and to tell us a little bit about how mentoring works at their company. Every company is different, so just give us a few words about the program. Why don't we start down there with Allison?
Is this on?
There you go. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Allie Scott. I'm the Director of Market Strategy for Skanska's construction division in our innovation team. And I've been with Skanska for 7 years. I came up through technology, went into architecture, and found myself in construction, where I get to marry all the best parts of all of those jobs. So at Skanska, we have what we call our Women's Network. It's been around since 2013. It started off with a chapter in New York, and it has since grown to a national organization with over 1,000 active members. We do mentorships in a few different ways. We have a lot of informal programs, but we do actually have a formal mentorship program. It's fairly new, where we try to match seasoned leaders with young professionals that are coming up, and there is an emphasis in encouraging and supporting and advocating for women in leadership roles. So it's a really exciting time for Skanska. We're really putting a strong emphasis on diversity and inclusion, because we know that from diversity of thought comes new ways of working. So it's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenna Keller. I am new to Autodesk as a BIM 360 adoption specialist, and I previously worked with Allie over here in the innovation group at Skanska, and also worked in project management, operations, and construction as well. And my educational background is in architecture, so went directly into construction from there.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Elizabeth Harper from GHD. I've been with the firm for 7 years. I'm the global CIO. I guess when we look at GHD with respect to women, we have a very strong program around women in GHD. We have a strong diversity and inclusion program. Our mentoring is a little ad hoc, and often what we see is it's really a few strong leaders who are driving that mentoring approach and identifying people who really deserve that coaching, mentoring and advocacy to take them forward in the organisation.
Hi, I'm Christine, or you can call me Tin. I came from Manila. I work with GHD, with Elizabeth, and I've been with the company for 4 years, and I'm working as a specialized application support manager. And I'm also part of the diversity and inclusion team in Manila.
Great.
Hi, my name is Sigrid Bayer. I'm a Global Sales Operations Services Director at Autodesk. I've been with Autodesk for 16 years. And I actually started my career in something completely different. It was hospitality industry, so nothing in technology, but I ended up there. And our mentor program, Linnell has already mentioned it, so we have a matching program, and it has been running for quite a while and is frequently used.
Yeah.
Okay, hi, and I'm loud. So my name's Kieran Goldsmith. I'm the Senior Director of Premium Support Services at Autodesk. I've been here for 18 years. I'm based in Switzerland. Obviously, from my accent, you can tell that I'm not Swiss. I'm actually originally Irish. And similar to what people have said about Autodesk, I think we have the matching program, but I think what we've really focused in on recently is diversity and inclusion. And I think we're using that as a means to drive innovation. And so new ideas from new people from outside of our normal networks is what we're looking for. So I think this is a great topic to kick it off.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to start with a question for our mentees, just to talk broadly about how your mentor has really helped you in your career and brought new opportunities for you. And you can jump in at any order. Do you want to start, Jenna?
Yeah, I can start. So for me, working with Allie, she has really inspired me to discover my own path and to build my own success. I think that it can be overwhelming when you're first starting at an organization, being brand new, to whether you've been there for a long time, that there's a lot of challenges to overcome, and to figure out your next steps can be very challenging. So Allie started guiding me in my current position, being brand new at Skanska and fresh out of college, to being successful within our group, and then later our conversation had shifted at one point to where do I fit into more of the broader industry. So as being mentor-mentee, our relationship also shifted to being friends as well. And throughout that time, she's always been encouraging me to keep staying curious and learn as much as I can, to grow my professional network, and just to stay challenged and continue pushing myself. So working with Allie, she's really giving me, I'd say, the confidence and really the tools to be able to chase my goals and find my unique path. So thanks, Allie.
Great. How about Teen?
Yeah. For me, actually, I've been working with Elizabeth for 4 years, but I'm working closely with her for, I think, 5 months since we started the leadership team in Manila. And I'm also lucky to be mentored by her mentor. So, so there. Right now, when I came here, when I found out that I'll be a speaker, I was so nervous and I panicked. So, I really hate speaking in public. I've never been to any public speaking, and this is my first time. So, woo! Thank you. And yeah, with the help of my mentors, I'm here. I'm shaking, but yeah, I'm brave.
Yeah,
I am, and yeah, I got that from Elizabeth. So
that's great. Thank you. Yeah, we talked to Teen earlier and said it's really important to share your story, and it's wonderful that this is your first speaking opportunity. So thank you for being here and paving the way for others to follow and inspiring others.
Shaking is okay.
Yeah, shaking is fine.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Actually, I have to take you on that, because my first experience in speaking to a wide crowd of people, it was actually a male organization. It was 500 people in Morocco, in Marrakesh. And I was on a world tour before, so I had packed like really nice dress and shoes and everything just for this event. And I was traveling from Singapore, Malaysia, through Paris. But anyway, my luggage got lost. So I had carried that all my way through that, and then I arrived there, I had nothing. I was like in sneakers, jeans, and a sweaty t-shirt. So then the hotel sponsored me with one of these typical Moroccan gowns, or however you call that. And like I had sandals from them, also typical Moroccan. So I was standing there in front of 500 people giving my speech in an outfit I was not prepared to be in. So that's the side of that. What was the question? No, so
how your mentor
helped, yeah. So Kieran and myself, we were have a long history together now, and I think the most, or what I got out at the beginning at least, we didn't officially have like mentoring, mentee, like written it down here, so like a contract. It was, he gave me really the self-awareness to what I wanted to do or what I didn't want to do. And I always had my self-confidence. I was sure, like the job I did, I had my confidence, I do a good job. I never thought about a career. It was not important for me to get like a director's title or whatever. It was always for me important to do a good job and that people respect me because of me, not because of my title. So,
great, thank you. Yes, so I've never done a panel with this many panelists, so I've asked everyone to do really quick, concise responses, and then we want to allow time for all of you to ask questions as well. And of course, we'll have a whole networking opportunity as well. So Kieran, you have been Autodesk for 17 years and have been a mentor for much of that time. So first of all, thank you. That's wonderful. Can you talk about a time when you had a real impact on a mentee, whether Sigrid or others, and how that impacted them, but also yourself?
Yeah, sure. I think, as Sigrid said, we've worked together since, well, 16 years, 18 years in the company. I think we formally started working together in 2007. And, over those 10 years, we had the opportunity of having a lot of conversations. We talked about listening, we talked about coaching, we talked about delegation and empowerment. And, to what Sigrid was saying, none of our conversations were really, sitting down and saying, hey, we're going to have this relationship. Here's the contract. Sigrid worked for me, so we had a slightly different relationship in that perspective, that it was, sort of that managerial relationship, but it truly became not just one of, a mentor-mentee, but also a friendship. And so, I had the pleasure of seeing Sigrid go from, somebody who was very competent to somebody who was very focused and actually knew what she wanted. And so to this concept of, I knew I wanted a career, to be able to help map that out. And so, we saw, ourselves grow from managers to senior managers to directors. And so I think, it wasn't a one-time event. It was a journey of growing together. And, as Sigrid got things from me, I got things from Sigrid. And so, I think it was a very beneficial relationship. And I think where it sort of came to me in terms of the real impact, or what I got out of it, and I think what Sigrid got out of it, is at the start of this year, I changed role. And it was obvious that Sigrid was the natural replacement. And so Sigrid became the leader of the organization I had before. And for me, that was the ultimate reward of the relationship and the journey we had gone on for 10 years.
That's fantastic. And that's a common pattern with this particular panel, which is not the same as my experience, where a formal mentorship program is short in time, but informal extends. And I think each of these pairs has had a relationship for 4 years or so. So Jenna, I was going to ask you, how did you meet Allie? And was it part of a formal program, or did it grow organically? And how has that relationship grown over time?
Great. So when I first started at Skanska, Allie was the welcoming coworker who sat around the corner from me. She was always encouraging my questions and introducing me to new people. But I was immediately drawn to her openness, and she was always willing to provide some great insight on my work, and she was very supportive. So she really made me just feel comfortable to approach her on any topic. And as my role developed, she eventually became my day-to-day manager, and we quickly developed a close bond, both personally and professionally. She was able to balance not only being my manager, but also my role model and an informal mentor. So working closely with her, I was really able to benefit from seeing her strategy on business, to managing complex relationships, and I really got to see her in action as a leader, which was great, good to learn from, for sure, looking back. And then she was also still an informal mentor to me, and really helping me to reach out to others, to meet new people, and learn a lot from them. And I think seeing what I learned from you, too, made me realize that, I should connect with other people and develop relationships with them, too, which gave me a lot of insight into Skanska and how we work. So as I moved on out of the group into a new role, and at one point had moved across the country, we were able to easily stay in touch, and we would message or just catch up on the phone here and there, but always available to get your insight on things. And,
great.
Yeah, so I think that really from this, I've grown in seeing how this has affected me, and wanting to be more open to others, wanting to be advocate for others, and to give back what you've done for me.
This is going to be a love fest, but we will, get to some challenges. No, this is what this is about. I mean, you guys have had such positive mentoring experiences, so it feels warm and fuzzy to me. So Allie, what have you learned from Jenna, and how has the mentorship really helped you evolve as a leader and a manager, knowing that you're a role model for many young women, I'm sure?
So Jen and I, obviously she told you a little bit of the backstory. We were working really closely together, and actually we were, it was a very informal relationship. It just kind of grew organically, and I was really drawn to her because for me coming up in the industry, I didn't have a model of what a woman in business should look like. There's not a lot of us, right? Or there's more now, but even 5 years ago, there's not a lot of us. So I kind of had to kind of forge my own path, and I was very lucky over the course of my career, and have been and continue to be, with having some really key mentors of my own that have helped me figure out what I wanted to do in my career. So I took a lot of those lessons that I had experienced and said, okay, here I have an enthusiastic young college grad in a VDC internship doing random stuff with me. How can I make sure that this experience is successful for her? And so she really challenged me to become a good manager and become a mentor, to kind of walk into that role. And I'm still learning lessons today. My direct report, Ricky's standing in the back. She gets the benefit of my lessons that I'm still learning on how to be a good manager today. But I try to take from take the experience I had with Jenna and say, okay, how can I make sure that that the people that work with me and for me are having a good experience and advancing in their career. So I have her to thank for that lesson as well.
It is definitely a win-win, two-way street. And I think for all of you who are in the audience as maybe mentees, just to know that, boy, the mentors get just as much out of it often as the mentees. So Elizabeth, I want to turn to you. And Elizabeth is a CIO at GHD, so very high-powered female professional with, I'm sure, many demands on your time. So what level of effort is required, and how have you managed being a good mentor on top of your day-to-day jobs? And how can mentees help you as a mentor in terms of any best practices there?
I think one of the most important things is you work out what the rhythm of it's going to be, how often you want to talk to each other, what the issues are that you want to address. And I think then behind the scenes, as a senior leader in the organisation, you can pull a few strings as well and create opportunities for the people to really stretch their boundaries and to recognise the opportunities that they can't see in themselves and facilitate that to go through. So how long does it take? It's up to what's required between the partnership, and I've mentored many people over the years, and some people it might be for a few weeks, sometimes it might go for months or years. It really depends on what both parties is getting out of the relationship. I mean, for me, the real positive is that we can make a real difference in the lives of those people, but also for our organisations in terms of the outcomes that we can achieve as a result of bringing that diversity in. So it's up to how much effort you want to make. Yeah.
How many people in the room are either a mentor or a mentee? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, so more than half of you. That's fantastic. Do you have more to say? No, okay. I would echo what Elizabeth said. Each mentor relationship is different, and some might meet for an hour and a half or 2 hours every quarter. Some might meet for a shorter period of time every month. And just working that out and kind of having a contract before you start. Here's how what it's gonna look like, and then sticking to that schedule.
And sometimes it's saying, right, when should we meet next?
Yeah.
And making that work, and what are the key things that we want to deal with? Yeah. It will be different. And I think, one of the things I've really learned is it's up to the mentee to make it work. Your comment about the amount of time we have, you're right, it's very limited as senior executives in our firms. And so as a mentee, expecting the mentor to set the program and all of that, no, it's your development program, and you have to step up and say, this is actually, I want to see you every month or every quarter, I need help with this.
And do you, and maybe for all the mentors, expect the mentee to come to the meeting with the topics and the agendas and the things that they want to talk about?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think to what Elizabeth was saying is that it's, it is a two-way. It's like communication. It's a two-way street. And if you're looking to the mentor to do it, it's very easy for us to prioritize other things. It's very easy to allow that meeting to slip or to reschedule it. And so I think, it is important that the mentee comes and sort of shows their commitment to it, and that the onus is not on the mentor to try and impart knowledge, but that it's an exchange that both people feel completely committed to.
Yeah. So, Teen, I've got a big question for you. What do you see as the challenges that young women are facing today? It's just a small question.
I know. It's a small question, but it's really hard to answer. It's broad.
It is a huge question.
Actually, when I read the question, I was thinking about it, and I had trouble answering it because in the Philippines, we have equal opportunity for everything. So the salary, for moms like me, we can still work and still take care of our babies as soon as we get home. So everything is equal. So the challenge is that what I've observed from young women is the fear. The fear of getting, making mistakes, like now, my fear of talking and maybe I might say something wrong, or maybe the fear of being judged. So if we compare women and men, so men are more confident. So for example, for job opportunities, well, that's in general. For opportunities,
he's afraid too.
I always see that whenever there are opportunities, men are more confident to grab it than women. So women, there's always this question, will I be able to do it? So there.
Yeah, thank you. I saw a lot of head nodding with the fear comment. So yeah, excellent. So Kieran, yes, as the only man on the panel, well, I'm actually not going to go there. And we have a number of men who are mentoring as part of Autodesk Women in Leadership, which is wonderful, and you were probably instrumental in kind of kicking that off. But as a man mentoring a woman, what have you learned about the challenges women face, and how has that shaped your leadership more broadly in your role?
Yeah, I think it's, very simply, words matter. And I think, when I say that, I mean to exactly what you just said there. So you used the example of, men are confident. And, I don't think that women are not confident. What I learned a lot of the times is you take a situation, and depending on whether you're talking about a man or a woman, people read the situation very differently. So I sit there and we look at two people having exactly the same opinion on something, and somebody will turn around and go, wow, that person's really passionate. And the other one will go, wow, that person's really emotional. And I'm sure you can imagine who they're talking about in terms of the male versus female. And other simple things like, if I defend my team, I'm confident, or I'm leading. If Sigrid defends her team, she's mothering. And so, I've seen all of this, and I think what I really learned is you've got to challenge that unconscious bias. You've really got to think about what you're saying and how you're saying it and how it's going to be perceived, and put yourself into other people's shoes and say, well, how would you feel if somebody described you that way because of that reaction? And I think I've learned, certainly it's been very interesting. I was saying this before we started. When I worked with Sigrid and the previous organization, we were about 70% female. And I moved to the technical organization and we're 9% female. And that's a massive change. And you can really see the difference in how we approach things and how we talk about things and how we react to situations. So I've learned to be very conscious of the dynamic of what people are saying and how people are, what they really mean, and look beyond it.
Can I just build on that
please.
confidence one a little bit? Research actually shows that when men see a job advertised, if they can do 20 or 30% of it, then they'll put their hand up and say, yeah. Whereas women, we want to be able to tick every box and say, yeah, we can do the whole lot before we'll actually put ourselves forward. And so I think, one of the things that we need to learn is we don't actually need to be able to tick every box to say, yeah, I can do that, I'm going to put myself forward. And I think that is part of that confidence thing, and it is quite a fundamental difference between men and women, and as women we need to recognise that and stand up.
Yeah, we need to learn that, and we also need to nudge our fellow women to take that risk in that job and kind of reminding them of that. So Elizabeth, maybe I'll stick with you for a minute. So you know, we're talking about women and encouraging women, but there's also a lot of work that needs to be done around diversity and encouraging diversity in our respective organizations. And mentoring is just one way that we do that. Can you talk a little bit about what GHD is doing in terms of diversity and other ways that you're helping women or minorities?
Oh, absolutely. We have a very strong formal program around diversity and inclusion, and we started with gender because I think that's where everybody starts. However, we have programs around Indigenous participation, and in Australia quite a strong reconciliation program, which is a formal program to bring more Indigenous folks into the workplace. We have an LGBTI program which has been massively controversial, which is sad in many ways within the organisation, but actually highlights why we need these sorts of programs. And it's a really interesting thing because the diversity and inclusion program of work is making it a better place for everybody to work. We've introduced a whole range of measures around maternity/paternity leave, which are consistent regardless of gender. So, you know, the men can take an equivalent level of paternity leave as women would take maternity leave, obviously apart from one event. And so, you know, it's far more balanced from that perspective. We're also running a lot of training around unconscious bias and really understanding unconscious bias, which is in many respects the decisions we make when we promote people or hire people which are in the image of ourselves, rather than, in many cases, rather than, you know, someone that is a little bit different, and understanding that we're naturally attracted to people who are much more like us than people who are different to us. And yet the real strength in our organisations comes from that diversity. I wouldn't say we're perfect by a long shot, and it's an interesting challenge. We have operations in 11 countries, from Australia through Middle East, and what you can run in terms of a program in Australia or the United States is radically different to what you can run in this sort of program in the Middle East. So being able to tailor the program for the environment is also critically important.
Great, thank you. And I'm just wondering, is Danny Guillory here? Okay, Danny is our diversity officer at Autodesk and has done some amazing things to foster diversity and inclusion, and he'll probably be at the networking hour this afternoon. So Allie, I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about the conversation we had around mentor versus advocate versus champion, and how those roles are different, because, yeah.
We were having a good conversation earlier, and there's, I think, something that I've learned, and it's something that actually that Beth Comstock talks about. And Beth Comstock, for those who don't know, is a vice chair at GE, and she runs one of their innovation program. And there is a fundamental difference between somebody who is a mentor versus an advocate or a champion, and somebody who is a coach. And this is something that I've sort of recently been thinking a lot more about. And you know, a mentor is this opportunity to develop a personal relationship with somebody that you want to model some of their experience and learn from. I've been really lucky to have a few different mentors over my career. One of them is actually sitting in the room right here, Mr. Jim Becker. He was a senior leader of Skanska for a very long time, somebody who actually brought BIM to our Skanska USA organization, and I've learned a lot of really strong lessons from him. But the difference in being just a mentor and building a relationship is, and then having an advocate or a champion, is knowing that with an advocate or a champion, you have somebody that can go to bat for you, that can actually step up and say, this person, this needs to be doing this, and fight for you to do something that maybe you can't fight for yourself for. And I think that that is a hugely important thing for advancing women in our industry, because I can teach Jenna all the lessons I can, share with her my experience, you know, give her good life lessons, good professional experience lessons from my experience. But if I can't also try to give her a leg up somewhere or fight for her in some way, then, you know, that, you know, it's a disservice eventually. I think that there's, you know, I think about what you did for Sigrid, Kieran. I mean, being able to coach her and give her experience, and then you taking over his old role, that's a beautiful example of how being a mentor and an advocate. So the other component is a coach. And I would say that my day-to-day manager that I work with now, our SVP of Innovation at Skanska, is my coach. He's the guy that I can pick up the phone. He might be in Switzerland or Sweden, and I say, I'm dealing with this issue. What exactly should I do? And he can give me that quick feedback. Okay, this is how you deal with this person. Write this email, and then do this, and then we can figure it out from there, right? It's like it's like a coach in being a professional athlete. When you have a professional athlete, and your coach is telling you, okay, those technical cues. So having somebody that can also give you that quick, instant feedback on how to do a good job in your performance is also really critical. Sometimes all three of those capabilities can be in one person, but also sometimes they're different people. So I think if we, as women, as we think about that, I think that's really important in our careers to have the people that can fill those roles.
And sometimes you ask for that, right? You know that I have one at Autodesk who I really consider to be a champion of mine, and telling her that which you want and asking her to go to bat for you. And more often than not, people are really, really happy to do that. So it's a really important role. So Sigrid, I want to come back to you. What are some of the most important things that leaders can do for women in general? So we heard about coach and advocate, and what has been your experience at Autodesk, and what do you want to see more of?
Yeah, for me the key thing is really that the people trust in you, that the trust that you can do something, that you are self-confident, just give you the self-confidence that you, it's all about building your self-confidence, and also let you fail or backing you up. If something goes wrong, you only can learn when you also have the chance to do it your own way. And also that people do not impose their own way on you. You have to do it this way because I did it that way and I was so successful in doing it that way. There's always an alternative. So let people explore their own way of doing things. So that's for me key.
Excellent.
And it's also important then from the other side that you are able to articulate your own way, what you want to do and how you would do it and why you would do it that way.
Yeah, advocating for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the key things probably, like when we talk back, like advice for people who start their careers is like learn to advocate for yourself, work on your self-marketing. I think women are really bad on self-marketing when it comes in some companies to like salary increase. You're very embarrassed to ask for that, even if you know you earn it. And a man just would go in and say, yeah, I want more. And so it's the self-marketing and the self-positioning, and work on yourself and don't rely too much on others.
And ask your mentor to help. You know, it's really about building your own brand.
That's just your own brand, and you can get your advice there. Or it could be from a coach, from the mentor. Or also it's important, like what you said, to have this other person, like a spokesperson for you, also on a higher level. So it's not just in your local network, but that you probably have a VP or somebody else higher up outside of your own circle to be your spokesperson.
Great. So we're going to open it up for questions. I'm going to ask one additional question, but if folks have questions, you'll get a chance to ask those in just a minute. We've been talking about women in the workforce. What advice would you all give a high school girl today who's not in the workforce, but will be? And how does this, what can we do to pave the way for those coming after us? And I'm interested in this because I have a 9th grade girl myself.
I'll start if that's okay. So something, I kind of go back to my own personal experience here because frankly, all of us do that, right? But I think something that I would encourage a young person today, male or female, is that you don't have to be one thing. I think it's really easy for us to think that, okay, well, I'm just an architect, right? Or I'm just I'm in construction, or if you're in high school, I'm the theater kid, right? Or I'm the track guy. Like that's all you are. You self-identify with this one group or identity. And I understand why it happens in high school because we're all trying to figure out who we are. But as you grow up, I would say, you know, allow yourself to be more than one thing. I came up going to a high school for theater arts and performance, and I got a bachelor's of arts in theater and acting and arts management. Ended up getting an MBA in design and innovation management, worked for a technology startup, and then went to architecture and construction. So my experience was not linear by any means. So I really encourage people to remember that it's okay to expand your circle. It's okay to be more than one thing. And when you do, when you diversify your experience, you diversify your knowledge, and you can bring that with you with whatever you do.
Other thoughts about what you would tell a high school girl?
I would really recommend to focus on what you like doing. You know, pick the subjects for university, the things that you really, really enjoy, because you're going to get the most kick out of it. Join the women's network. You know, we have in Brisbane, where I live in Australia, we have Women in Technology, and you know, we actually have opened that up to young people to come in through the STEM programs, and so you know, get involved and build on those networks, because ultimately, you know, the people that you meet in those networks are the ones who are probably going to give you a job later. So you know, really start to form those relationships early on.
Jenna, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think in between these two a little bit, I think it's important to just know that you don't need to have a straight path and a clear end goal, which is kind of what I thought going into architecture school, and that you can find your passions and your strengths as you go. And for me, it was really important to also see the things that I don't like to do and kind of move away from those and just keep fine-tuning as you go. Yeah.
I think I have one thing to add on that, fully agreeing with like the diversity that you don't know at the beginning of your career where you want to go. And what I hated most, and when I started or came out of university, it's like one of my first job interviews, somebody asked me, and where do you want to be in 5 years? And it's like, what a stupid question, I'm out of... But it's probably a question which is still asked pretty frequently. Don't get distracted by that question, because you can make up a story where it's like, yeah, I want to have your job in 5 years, and I'm very self-confident. You don't know when you start your career, it's just the unknown. You know your strengths is, what your preference is, but it's a journey. Like I restarted my journey when I was just turning 40. So I started with Autodesk, different industry, different company. I needed to rebuild my network. It's always possible to course correct or to do something new whenever you want to do it.
And I would just add on to that, just, you know, the importance of figuring out what it is you like doing, to your point, and what do you want to do next? Not forever, but what do you want to do next? And because the universe is there to support you to get there. And I really believe that once you're clear on what you want in life or in your career, then things happen. But figuring out what it is that you want, whether it's I want a management job, or I want to live overseas, or you know, whatever that goal is, just really kind of spending time with yourself to figure that out is a huge part of the challenge. Did you want to add to that?
I was just going to say, I've got a young daughter as well, and so you know, what I would say to her is very similar to what you're saying, which is, you know, do something that you love. Do something that you're going to be passionate about because you'll be good at it, and don't accept no. You can do it, and you know, there is no inequality in your thought process. Mm-hmm. And so if you put your mind to it, you'll be successful doing it.
Great. You want to add one last?
Yeah. Actually, I agree with all of you, and just a message: if you want to do something, or if you know what you want and do something about it. So.
Yeah, that's a great, somebody tweet that.
I can probably give a little example of someone who did that, which would be this person here. You know, we hired Tin as a telephone support person on a service desk in the Philippines, and she didn't know anything about AutoCAD or Revit or anything, and she went off and learnt. and created a team that now provides 24/7 telephone support for technical problems in those fields. And she manages that team on our behalf. And so it's actually about sometimes identifying something and going, I'd really like to learn about that, and going and doing it, right? Just do it. And she's been a huge success for us at GHD, with a little bit of help from other people, but fundamentally her self-drive and determination is what's made that opportunity work for her.
Fantastic. Yeah, overcoming fear. So we are going to open it up for questions, and someone's going to keep me on time. Okay, great. So we've got a question in the front. We've got a microphone coming to you. Do you have a clock? Oh.
Hi. My question is about feedback, and what I've discovered in our company, which is split a little bit 50-50, a little bit more women than men actually, is that we find the women in my company are very hard. It's hard to give feedback and it's hard to get feedback. And just generally, the men in the company are very easygoing about giving and receiving it, but the women are not. And I'm just wondering how you could open the communication for feedback and make it easier.
That's a great point.
In my team, we actually have formal training on how to give and receive feedback, because most people don't know how to do it properly either way. And so, learning about the appropriate time and place. I mean, I've seen people do some appalling things to people because they decide to give them immediate feedback in a big room, and it's like, and so the training on how to give it, how to give the messaging the right way so that it has the impact, but also how to receive it graciously, because sometimes you get feedback that you don't quite expect, and then how to process it. So I think the formal training and that helps significantly, and we, as I said, we do that in my team in GHD.
Yeah, I think we've done something similar in Autodesk. We have a lot of training curriculums that focus on how do you develop the skills to give and receive. We also use cliches like feedback is a gift and receive it that way. But I think the bigger thing is the culture of the company. There has to be a culture going across the company that's one of openness, and I think that takes a lot of time. That starts at the top, and it becomes embedded within the norm of the company.
And your question was also partly about women are tough critics of themselves and each other, and I think that's something that we all in this room can be cognizant of. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that, but it's an
I'm not sure I can speak to that exactly. Okay. I mean, I guess we just live it. I don't know. But something that I learned that in graduate school that has been helpful for me when I give feedback specifically is I always like to, there's a phrase that we were taught. It basically says, what I really liked what you did here was this, enter that, and then say, and what I wish for you going forward, or what I'd like to see next is this. And so it becomes less about a person and like what they did or maybe how they behaved or whatnot, and more about how can we improve your work product. And how can we make you more successful? Not what did you do wrong or what. And I know for me, I clam up when I hear like, oh, you didn't behave too properly there, Allie. I'm like, oh crap, like there's a lot of internal stuff that happens there, and I think finding a way to focus on always improving the work and rather than making it personal is important. I mean, that's
great. So let's move to another question. I know that I want to make sure we have enough time, and we'll try to have really quick answers so we can get to as many of them as possible. Right here.
Hi. So I'm noticing in business what we do is we have roles, responsibilities very, very clearly stated. We don't teach in our high schools. We teach a career path to get to a role and responsibility. We don't teach that diversity of you don't have to climb a ladder. There's a horizontal movement as well. What do you, any of you who choose to answer, think that we need to do for our younger generation?
Well, especially given the keynote this morning about the evolution of skills and jobs in the era of automation. And so how do we continually become ongoing learners in our careers as well.
I think it's, if I take it something from Autodesk, we are focusing more on soft skills now as well when we hire. So it's a big, you have the perception you can always learn sort of like the architecture, the construction, but the soft skill, if you don't have the soft skill, you probably, it's hard to achieve it later. So that's one of the, one advice when you go into hiring, or also when you present yourself on your soft skills.
At GHD, we actually have a thing called the Career Pathways Program, which shows that there are paths up through the management, but there's also paths through to technical expertise, and that those roles are equally as important in firms like ours as the management path, and for people to recognise that, you know, they can take the path that suits what they want to achieve in their career and not feel they haven't achieved because they haven't got onto the executive team or whatever, but they've been massively successful in their career through that technical path. So that's a very important path of ours. And yeah, we're a firm of 9,000 engineers. So.
Yeah. Did we have another question over there? Oh, or over here, someone has a mic? You guys just, okay, here, and then we'll come here, and then we've got one over on that side after.
It's a question, but also a few suggestions. Going through school, I did electronics, then I jumped into civil. And the last 20-something years, I've been working in firms where I don't see much of females in the STEM area. For the last 2 years, I went to a couple of universities, and I wanted to know why am I not seeing females within the core of the STEM field. And realizing that the marketing needs to begin at a high school level, right? So I became an ambassador for a few engineering university programs where, should females need assistance, they can email or contact me by phone for guidance as which direction. Not necessarily STEM. What I found out is a lot of females that are doing arts, we have tools in Autodesk, and that's the only software I know, so that's what I market to these kids. Use these softwares to help you to do your design. That brings you into the STEM program. So they start focusing on that. Last year, I had the opportunity to speak at a conference where 27 high schools were brought to a college. That was my main focus, because when you look at the females that are interested in the STEM areas, there was not much. And when I was going through college, I was the only female sitting in all my classes. You, as females, and a male, in the panel, could do a little bit more as getting involved locally in your community, not just as a mentor for one or two or a few individuals, but get deeply involved from a high school level.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's probably a good point for everyone in the audience, and I would be surprised if some of these panelists weren't also involved locally, but the importance of both locally and in your workplace, and mentorship can happen everywhere. I don't know if anyone wants to...
Yeah, so in Brisbane, where I come from, we have a Women in Technology organisation. We even allow men to join it, and every year we run an event at which we invite companies to come to and present their technologies, and we invite schools to come along, the teachers, the parents, and the teenagers, and it is just absolutely amazing to see the interactions with these people with the virtual reality and the different technology pieces, which then, we're tapping into those high school kids. And you're right, but I think as parents, we make some really interesting choices. We give our daughters dolls and our boys a Lego. I was lucky I got Lego. And I think that, some of that stereotyping about what we're going to be when we grow up starts from how we parent. So if we want to make a really big difference, we actually have to start with reframing how we parent and the things that we encourage our children to play with when they're this big, so that as they get through, they make different choices.
Yeah, good point. So I'm going to move to Danny. We've got about 5 minutes. We'll see as many questions as we can get to.
So for the 50% of the people who did not put up their hands,
yeah,
does the panel have any advice about how they should get the most out of being a mentor or mentee?
I have an answer to that. Okay. So before I was at Autodesk, I worked for a fairly big company called HP, Hewlett-Packard. We didn't have a formal mentorship program, and I desperately wanted a female mentor. I was just about to start having a family, and I was looking up the chain to figure out what female was raising kids and a successful executive. I had to go all the way up till I got to the CMO. So I called her, and I asked her if she'd be my mentor, and she said yes, right? And so I think that was shocking for me and scary for me to do. But I think figuring out, what do you want mentoring in? I wanted marketing at the time. You know, do you want sales experience? Do you want, you know, what kind of experience do you want? And then actually going out and asking someone to be your mentor. But I'm sure you guys have lots of advice too.
Yeah, I think to that point, nearly all senior executives or senior leaders that I talk to or engage with, very few of them will ever say no to a mentor request or mentee request. And I think, you know, it's having that curiosity yourself, that professional curiosity to say, I want to go and find somebody that's going to help me. And I think most leaders, there is a level of, you feel proud that people are coming to look to you for guidance. And so I think I've very rarely seen a leader turn around and say, I'm not willing to spend some time. They may not give you all the time you want, but they typically will give you time. And if they don't have the capacity, they typically will find somebody that will work with you. So, it's on you to ask, and I think you'll find that you will get.
Yeah. The other piece of advice I'd add to that is look outside of your own organisation. A number of the people that I mentor do not work for GHD, they work for other organisations, and so I can give them a very different lens because I'm not part of the machine that they live in day to day. So, if you see someone, if you see someone who inspires you at Autodesk at the course of the things, ask one of them. You'll be amazed.
I'm going to go here and then there. So let's go over there, and then we'll come back over here.
We have a question. Thanks. One of the things that I've experienced being a younger woman and working with older generations of men is that I often feel like I have to prove myself before I have like a credibility in their eyes. So my question is, have you experienced that in your career, and if so, how have you handled that?
That's an easy one. Who wants to take that?
I was going to say, I don't think that's unique to just being female. I think everybody starting off in their career, I think, has that feeling that the people above them are judging them and that there's a need to prove yourself. So I'm not sure that it's necessarily, I certainly felt it, maybe also from older men, but I'm not sure that that's unique to a female versus a male. But in terms of overcoming it, from my perspective, it was all about proving yourself and having that self-confidence in what you're going to do and what you want to do. But I'd love to know if any of the other ladies
have responses.
Actually, I can share my experience. I've experienced that before. When I started supporting Autodesk, it was just me. I didn't have a team. And then we have a call set up monthly just to discuss updates on products and stuff. And I've been working with service line leaders, managers, and they were talking about Revit, and I didn't know anything about Revit. So I was like, okay, I listened to them talking, and I got a feedback that I was not assertive. That is because I didn't have knowledge about the product. So you can still do something about it. It's a challenge, and just go on with it.
Do you want to add to that? Okay, well, I've got another question here. One thing I would just add is knowing what's important to the executives at your company and speak their language. If they care about this kind of metric or that kind of metric, position yourself in language that they're familiar with. Sometimes is helpful. Was there another? Yes, right there. Great. And maybe this might be the last question.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've seen that the perfect match for a young woman in technology is to have a female mentor. So I'm one of this little number of women in mechanical engineering. So in my whole career, which is not just a week now, so it's long, and I only had male managers. And even if looking up, there's no female around. So shouldn't we do also the other way around, just instead of just talking to the young ladies, say, okay, raise your voice, but also talk to the male mentors, listen to a female woman in technology other than to a man in technology?
Great point.
I've never had a female manager either. I've only ever been the female on the executive, I'm the first and only female on the executive GHD, and with other companies that I've worked for. And so it actually is a really interesting thing, because I think we lack role models in our industry, and I think it's critically important for women who get to roles like mine that we actually do what we can to support, advocate, and to be the role models for the future generations. It's really, really important, and I'm sure Ali has some stuff on this as well.
I've only ever worked for one woman. The rest of the people I've ever worked for are men, and that's that's a fair amount of people, and yeah, it's a real challenge. It was one of the reasons why I put a lot of energy into developing the relationship that I have with Jenna, because I saw in her a lot of the same passions and excitements about what we were doing, and I wanted to make sure that she had a sounding board that I didn't necessarily have, that I had in some regards, but that wasn't a woman. It's just a different experience. The female experience in the workforce is different than a male's experience in the workforce. There is no way around that, and I think it's my responsibility, having created a career for myself with the help of mentors and advocates, to now pass on that experience to Jenna, and it's now Jenna's responsibility to do the same for the people below her. And I think that that's something that we all remember, we try to remember, is that there's that great GIF, I'm sure some of you guys have seen it, where of a woman, it's an illustration, a woman lifting another woman, who then lifts another woman, who then lifts another woman. I think that's all of our responsibility. And it's not just to advocate for an individual below us, but advocate for all of ourselves in the room. So, time more opportunities to collaborate with each other. Calling Jenna when I just want to, run something by her to say, does this make sense from an Autodesk perspective, that what we're doing at Skanska? Like those kinds of conversations, bringing into the fold other young women who can add a voice or add color to what you as an individual are doing and how you're performing in your own workforce.
Anyone else? Okay, great. So I have one final question. I love this question. I didn't come up with it. If you could send a tweet of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell him or her? And you can get each other's Twitter handles after the networking. Oh, I might have stumped them.
Well, actually, the young lady in the bluey-green shirt, have the courage.
Have the courage.
I think, to me, have the courage would be what I'd tweet to myself.
Great. Sigrid.
Same direction, be fearless and be self-confident.
Be fearless and self-confident.
Shake it off and just keep swimming. I'm going to borrow
Good, yeah. Shake it off and keep swimming.
Yeah, a little Dory line.
Upstream. Anyone else?
Mine was similar, but just don't be so hard on yourself. Keep moving.
Yep, be brave.
Huh? Yeah, okay, yeah. Great, so I have one final reminder. Thank you, Rodney. There is a mixer today that, with other women here at AU at the Hub that starts at 5.
Yep.
And I'm sure there will be cocktails and lots of great conversation about free drinks on our mail.
Rush down.
So please join us there. I look forward to meeting many of you and continuing the conversation.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.